Okay, so I've been gone for over 2 months in bereavement, mourning the passing of my older brother, and as soon as July started, Sony-PlayStation decided to go full-on crazy mode. That got the entire gaming community going so berserk that this news even overshadowed the hype for Grand Theft Auto 6. We got a lot to break down and talk about here, folks, because this video I'll do my best to simplify and summarize Sony PlayStation's not so good back-to-back announcements along with the not so good uncovered details about their certain agreements as we as customers accept every time we update our consoles or make a purchase. Annihilate that like, subscribe, and notification button, not only to welcome me back, but also stay up to date with this channel's weekly videos. And with that said, let's talk. Hey everyone, after 2 months, I'm back representing 4BZ Entertainment, News, and Gaming once more with another video and a whole roller coaster of news and updates to the latest controversies of Sony PlayStation's announcements starting back on July 1st blog post on PlayStation.com. That is, as of January 2028, Sony will cease production of physical copies of new video games, and from that point onward, new games will be available on the PlayStation Store and at retailers in digital formats only. According to PlayStation's blog post, their reason for doing this shift is because, and I quote, the broader entertainment industry shifting customer preferences, and that this is a natural direction for Sony Interactive Entertainment, or SIE for short, to adapt customer trends as the general preference for digital media significantly outpaces physical discs. You have to keep in mind the timing of this, especially after Rockstar's announcement about Grand Theft Auto 6's prices and is releasing as essentially an all-digital game with quote-unquote physical copies that are just game cases with the digital download code inside it just a week prior. And right on cue, gamers everywhere cried out in outrage, from the blog post comments section to countless videos, including this one on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and of course Twitter X, alleging Sony is intentionally destroying the secondhand market and wanting more control over their products, and further speculation that the PS6 will only be digital. Now here's the point of contention here. According to PushSquare.com, they cite PlayStation's financials that confirm, quote-unquote, the trend of digital purchases that have been leaning 85% in total. But that only accounts for the total sales in the quarter ending back on March 31st of this year in 2026. In other words, according to Gameology's post on Facebook, that Sony had skewed the numbers because within that 85%, they purposely left out games that never had a physical release, like a lot of indie games, heavily discounted downloads, subscription and subscription link purchases, live service games, older titles, and smaller digital-only releases. So in actuality, physical game sales are more than likely a bit more in that total percentage talk. I'm just saying. And speaking of older titles in a digital catalog, the second punch from Sony PlayStation's two-piece combo is the announcement of the imminent closure of PlayStation stores of the PS3 and Vita. Literally on the same day, Sony makes this announcement immediately right after the No More Physical Games announcement, and also on another blog post on PlayStation.com that starting this year, the PS3 store will close in select markets and then globally next year, along with the Vita store. But to ease the transition, players are still able to download previously purchased content after the closing date for the foreseeable future.
Whoop-de-damn-do.
Now, the last time Sony made this announcement of closing the PS3 store was back in March of 2021, and just like what we're seeing now, the backlash was furious to say the least, which resulted in PlayStation getting more sales and changed their mind. Even more on a related note of digital content on a Sony PlayStation account, last week Sony made, you guessed it, an announcement,
Of course!
about how they will be removing, get this, over 500 movies, not only from their store, but also from the accounts that purchased them. The cause of which Sony themselves lost the distribution rights with Studio Canal via license expiration. Some of the movies that PlayStation account holders will lose are Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Total Recall, Rambo First Blood, Apocalypse Now, and Hot Fuzz. just to name a few. And let's not forget, Sony isn't offering refunds despite account holders paying full price to quote-unquote buy these titles, because when you agree to the end user license agreement, it specifically states that you are paying for a revocable license, meaning just like employment of a company, at any time they hold the right to disregard your access to your game or movie. Oh, and if you don't use your PlayStation account within 3 years, Sony PlayStation will deactivate the account as a whole, including any and all previous digital titles, a recently discovered fact that was uncovered deep within the end user license agreements, or EULA, which again, I emphasize, everyone who makes any purchase on the PlayStation Store, updating your console, or even being a member of PlayStation Plus, you are subject to such potentialities.
Of course!
Which, to add icing on this multi-layered cake of disaster that Sony themselves is facing a £2 billion antitrust class action lawsuit, which is equivalent to us Americans, $2.7 billion. This was brought up to the Competition Appeal Tribunal by a man named Alex Neal, who alleges that Sony forces customers to buy digital games exclusively through the PlayStation Store by preventing retail competitors and charging $30 commission. They also allege that Sony inflates prices, forcing users to pay more than they would for physical copies. Sony defends by stating the lawsuit ignores the significant investments it has made in the integrated PlayStation ecosystem and points out that Nintendo and Microsoft use similar closed storefront models. If the lawsuit favors a console, about 12.2 million United Kingdom residents who purchased digital games or in-game content between August of 2016 and February 2026, affected gamers will be compensated on average about £162 or $217 equivalent. I can only fathom that with this news, game collectors like myself fear that an all-digital game future marks the end of video game ownership as a whole. A move like this can decimate not only the gaming retail market, but the secondhand market as well. People who resell their games at conventions or even online fronts will more than likely jack up their prices because of the demand collectors will be hunting for, and or even more extreme, the rise of people riding their high seas more than ever, which is what Sony did not want, but only time will tell. With that said, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. How do you feel about Sony and PlayStation right now? I gotta say, once again, the PS5 will be my last console. There are more updates that I have yet to cover in this video, but I'll make a follow-up video another time. I'll keep y'all posted on that. But with that said, thank you for your time, and I'll see you guys then. Have a good one. Peace.